Loading, and I believe we are live. Stephanie Hammond, how are you doing today?
Good, good. How are you, Stetson? Nice to be back.
I'm doing great. Actually, just making sure that we're actually live because I think we're not. Oh my God. Okay, that's a test. I'm checking
It's
YouTube.
showing live
Oh,
online.
we are. We're set.
Yeah,
Okay. How
showing live.
embarrassing.
Countdown's going.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Welcome to all 22 people or so. I'm still getting caffeinated. A little bit of a false start there. Stephanie Hammond is head nerd sales and marketing at Enable. My name is Stetson Blake. I run a couple Facebook groups and newsletters and different things. But today, Stephanie, you're our guest. I'd love to hear just a quick intro about who you are and what you're up to at Enable.
Sure. Thanks, Stetson. So my name is Stephanie Hammond. I'm part of the head nerd team that we have in Enable. There's 7 of us that are part of the team, and then we have who we affectionately call our head nerd wrangler, Sarah Rice, who kind of keeps us all in check as kind of like our program manager. But for the most part, the head nerds are technical. They focus on things like automation and patching and security and data protection, backup, all like cloud, like all sorts of stuff that I'm going to say these words and I don't really know what they mean. But I am the one that focuses on all things sales and marketing related. So I joke that a lot of times I'm the one that doesn't fit. But my role is I work with MSPs. I work with our partners, pretty much teaching them how to take all that technology that they're buying from Enable, because we sell remote monitoring, we sell backup, we sell data protection, we sell security, and I teach them how to package that all up and make money off of it in a profitable way.
Fantastic. And before the call here, you were telling me you were shamelessly non-technical. Maybe I minced words
Very
there a little bit, but
non-technical.
no, you're non-technical, but awesome at marketing and sales. And we had a story I think we should open with. Our topic today, by the way, for folks that are just joining, is how to price your services, focusing on MSPs and some of these areas Stephanie covered: MDR, EDR, backup, and etc. But Stephanie, you said that you had a client that was on the marketing side was focusing on, what was it, like, from a technical mindset?
Yeah. So he's an MSP that's kind of flatlined in terms of his revenues. And admittedly, he said all of our business comes from word of mouth and referrals, which is not unlike the average conversation I have with MSPs on a daily basis. They're really, really good. They built up their business. Their business is coming in from referrals and marketing, but there's only so much that referrals and word of mouth can actually do. So they're now recognizing that to kind of break through, kind of their $5 million dollar revenue a year revenue plateau, they need to start investing in some marketing. And so they were kind of asking me, like, what should we do? What should we focus on? And he was wanting like a lot of data, a lot of metrics. Like, if I invest this, how much return am I going to get in this? If I invest in this, how many new leads am I going to get? And marketing doesn't work like that. But I think, because he was a technical business owner, which I think a lot of MSPs are. I think there's, less so than it was back in the day. I've been in the industry for 20 years, but for the most part, a lot of the MSPs that I work with, they're a technical owner. So they know technology really, 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 really well, but they don't have that training in sales and marketing and that kind of thing. So I think he was just struggling to say, well, if I do this, what will my return be? And really the whole idea with marketing is you need to do what you can to build awareness with a whole lot of people that don't know that you exist. So, because the idea is that when someone decides that they want a new MSP, because pretty much everybody has an MSP today, because you guys have done such a fabulous job talking about how, Mr. Business Owner, you don't know technology, we know technology, outsource it to us. That messaging has really grown and resonated over the last 20 years. So now it's not about winning new clients. It's actually about stealing clients from another MSP. And in order to do that, you need to really go wide to spread the word that your MSP actually exists, so that, as me, as a non-technical business owner, if I'd wake up one day and think, I'm not really feeling it with my existing MSP anymore. Maybe I haven't heard from him in a few months. I keep paying this fee, but I don't know what I'm paying this fee for. So if there's that kind of sentiment, they're going to start looking for a new MSP. And if you're not doing any marketing, or if you're not out there in the digital world, if you're not out there in real life, and they can't find you, but they can find your competitor, well, who do you think they're going to reach out to? So, but it's that whole idea that, I couldn't give him specific metrics on, if you invest this, you're going to get this kind of return back and this many leads. And I think he was finding that a little bit frustrating. So
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that. I think a lot of our audience and MSP owners in general can kind of resonate with that, coming from that technical background and learning marketing.
Well,
There's a
you're
good,
used to cause and effect, right? You're used
yeah,
to, if there's this problem, I can put this problem to it and fix it, and then
logical
I'm
A to
good.
B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't work as cleanly like that in, kind of the marketing world, which
Yeah,
I think is why some MSPs kind of do, whack-a-mole when it comes to marketing. Like, and that's kind of what he was trying to do. Well, I'll just do a little bit now to see if I can get some new business, and then I'll work on that business. And then when I realize I need more business again, like I said, I keep calling it whack-a-mole, and that's not what you need. So marketing is something that needs to be a consistent investment, because you should always have a strategy in there. Again, building awareness and introducing yourself to people that don't even know that you exist.
fantastically put. And there's an amazing quote I love that I think is totally applicable here. It's, half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half.
Well, because
I'm
that's
not
the thing,
sure.
because when with marketing, right? Like, buyers don't know when they're going to buy, right? So you don't know when buyers are going to be ready to buy. Like, it could be that all of a sudden I wake up this morning and I think, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to look for somebody new to look after my computers. And this is where you need to be consistent in getting your messaging out there, so that I know that you are a potential viable alternative for who I'm using today. And so, yeah, I may not be buying from you today or tomorrow or next week or next month, but if you're out there, if I'm seeing you on social, if I'm seeing you out in the community, I'm seeing you sponsoring an event, if I'm seeing a blog post, if I'm seeing you, wherever, I'm seeing you on a podcast, I'm seeing you in an article, then if that's the day that I finally decide I want to make a decision and find somebody new, and I see you pop up because you are being consistent with your marketing, the chances are I'd be like, oh, they're local, they're in my area, I may reach out. And that's the goal of marketing. You have to keep doing it, because you never know when your buyer's going to be ready to buy.
Yeah, well put. And how much we wish it was just A to B, turn this lever and revenue flows in.
It can be with the right system. I know this isn't the podcast topic for that, but if you have the right processes and the right system, and you have the right strategy in place, and there's dedication to it, you can be a little bit more predictable, maybe. But if you're just starting out, and again, I know we're not talking marketing, but if you're just starting out, I was trying to tell him, let's just focus on the basics. Like, he was trying to think big. And I have that issue too with MSPs. They're like, all right, I'm going to do marketing, I'm going to go all in. And it's like, okay, let's look at the basics. What does your website look like? Are you on LinkedIn? Like, can I find you if I Google you? Is your SEO okay? Like, so these are little things that don't cost a lot, but if we can just kind of work on those little foundational elements, even that can make a big difference.
Well put. And we are going to get to pricing eventually, but I have one question, a curveball for you, Stephanie.
Oh God.
What's harder to do? To be technical and learn marketing and sales, or to be a marketer that learns the tech side?
Oh my God. If I had to learn the tech side, I would be toast. So I think I'm in the harder position, because I don't think sales and marketing, I don't think it's all that difficult to learn.
It's because you're a natural.
I'm not going to say I'm a natural, but because my story of how I actually got into sales is, I'm not throwing Enable under the bus. I've been here 20 years. They're my family. But, back in 2011, I was, up until that point, I was just an account manager. And I'm very good on the customer success account management role. But I went away on vacation, and my boss said to me before I was going away on vacation, oh, by the way, when you get back, you're going to be sales. You have a new title, and you're going to have targets and sales quotas. And I'm like, I'm not a salesperson. And he goes, you are now. And I said, I don't have any sales experience. And he goes, you better get caught up. Like, that was so I feel sales and marketing is something that is probably more easily learned than like the knowledge that, I'm just amazed whenever I talk to any of my technical head nerd colleagues, and they're just that ease with technology, and they start talking and I'm just like, I need language. I need English. Like, I hear words, I cannot understand what they mean when you put them all together like that. So, yeah. So I think it's easier for you to learn the sales and marketing than I think someone would like me to kind of go backwards.
Awesome. Thanks for entertaining that. And I don't have a good answer. I'm not sure myself. It's one of my favorite kind of icebreaker contentious questions. But Stephanie, I think we should get to pricing today, as
Sure.
that is our topic. I'll encourage folks, if you are joining us live today, drop a comment, because we're able to show them live and kind of respond as I'm doing now. But pricing, man, where should we start on this?
Do you want to start with what I said is the number one question I always get?
Yeah, so let's refresh. Stephanie, what's the number one question you get on pricing
Yeah.
for MSPs? Can you tell us, please?
Yes. And I get this question on probably a daily basis, or at least 2 to 3 times a week. And again, I think it's the difference between a technical mindset and a sales and marketing mindset. And because like Enable, we have a lot of different products, right? You know, we have a bunch of security products. We have a bunch of data protection products. We have RMM products. And so I will get the question from, an MSP. Let's use our new Enable MDR as an example, our new managed detection response service. We're pushing it, so it's top of mind for a lot of our partners, and they'll come to me and they'll say, Steph, what do I charge for Enable MDR? What are other MSPs charging for Enable MDR? And my answer always is, I don't know, it depends. And they're confused by that. And so I'll say, it depends on who are you selling to? Like, who is your target audience? Who is it that you want to sell MDR to? And so I always start off with saying, well, because for the managed services industry, there's really like 2 target clients that we could be selling to. We have our traditional managed services clients, and they're the ones that we are predominantly used to, right? They're the ones they're non-technical business owners. I can relate to them. They don't know anything about IT. They know how to run a business, but they don't know how to take care of and manage their network. So they outsource that to a managed service provider. And that managed service provider is 100% responsible for the care, the management, the protection, the security of their network. So if we're selling to that type of client, we're not selling a product. We're selling a package of security services bundled up in a way that creates value and creates that benefit to the business owner to hopefully not succumb to a cyber attack. So I can't tell you how much to charge for MDR in that case, because it's part of your other security, it's part of backup, it's part of your support services that you're building in, it's part of your monitoring services that you're building in. And that, depending on how you build that package out, $250, $400 user per month. I've seen it in some cases. But if you are selling MDR in a co-managed type of client, or in a co-managed approach where you are working with an IT director or someone of a technical person, then they're 100% responsible for the care protection of the corporate network. You're not. You're just coming in to help for a particular piece, whatever that particular piece happens to be. So in that case, you can sell it on a per device basis, because we are basically reselling a tool with some services on it. So whenever I get that question, what should I charge for X? It always has to be, well, who are we selling to? And then the discussion goes down from there.
Yeah, awesome. And when I initially heard that, response, who are we selling to? I think a lot of people's reaction, or mine at least, was like, oh, so you charge more or less based on who you're selling to? And I don't think that's not at all what you're getting at. It's more about
it does, because using our Enable MDR, again, as an example, if we are, because I do boot camps on this with Enable, like how do you build your security programs? How do you price them? How do you sell them? How do you overcome objections? And so, for Enable MDR, it would be part of an advanced security program, because I will say to MSPs, an advanced security program should be sold to anyone that has compliance standards that they have to fall under. So anybody in healthcare, anybody in banking, they automatically should be part of this advanced security package that has MDR in it. And because from a compliance standpoint, you need a lot of those services, or your customers need a lot of those services in that program. So that could be $250 per user per month, right? I've seen it up as high as $350, $400 per month, depending. But if you're selling maybe MDR on a per device to a corporate client, that's all you're doing. You're doing MDR. That's it. You're not doing anything else. You can charge $85, $90 per user for that, because you're not responsible for everything else. So it really just depends on who you're selling to and what you're committing to, and if they fall underneath any sort of regulations or not.
Yeah, awesome. I've got some follow-up questions there, but I do want to get to a couple folks in the comments here.
Sure.
ISMD Device has, I think, a quick question. Who do I reach out to for a partnership? We have a new tool for MSP that monitors IT infrastructure. Perhaps there's contact page, something like that.
Yeah, that's not the part of the company that I work for. There's 1,600 of us. So if you're looking to do business from Enable, which is what it sounds like, yeah, probably.
I think I initially thought this was somebody wanting to buy, but it sounds like maybe they want to partner.
ISMD, I take that. Yeah. So we have our our TAP program, our technology. Oh my God, what's it? Technology Advisor Program. So you just have to go to our website and look up TAP, and there may be contact information there. Yeah.
Awesome.
I wouldn't even know. Yeah.
Let's rapid fire. Quicker, or hopefully a quick one. EDR versus MDR.
Yes. So EDR, endpoint detection and response. So that's taking care of covering the workstation, the endpoint, something like a Sentinel-1. MDR in the Enable case is managed detection and response. And here we're not just looking after the endpoint. We're able to look after all elements of the network, including the cloud.
Awesome. I think Barrick put that pretty well at a high level.
Yeah.
Endpoint detection.
And yeah, it has the SOC service, the engineers, that type of thing.
Yeah, cool. So and another from no worries, from Barrick here. An agricultural company in Kansas are going to be differ vastly from a healthcare company out of New York. Price with the cost of reduction, risk, and area expectation. Any advice there, Stephanie, on kind of regional pricing and some of that?
Yeah, and that's why I can't give regional pricing either, because of the differences here. So in my boot camp, we actually have like a costing calculator that I teach how to use it, not so much of how to come up with, individual geographical market location specific pricing, but it's all about making sure, like, first defining your program. Like, so if you're having something like an advanced security program, what goes into that? So you need to first define the program first for whatever customer you're selling to. So yeah, like if you are selling to a healthcare company, there's going to be HIPAA there. So we need to make sure that we're building a program where we're able to help. Now, we can't make customers compliant, but we can help encourage them and put the right tools in place and processes in place for compliancy. So we build a program based on that. And then you have to put in, all of your software costs, and then you have to put in your labor costs of who's going to be doing the work. Is this a fully managed program, a proactive program, meaning fully managed, all the support is included for one monthly price all in, or proactive? Are we just keeping the reactive stuff out, like help desk calls or reactive emergency time? That's going to be billable. So again, we need to kind of build that program first, figure out our costs, and then figure out what kind of margin we want to put in. So you're absolutely right. Like, depending on it depends. Who you're selling to is going to play a big role in what program you design, and then how you're going to price that.
Fantastic. A couple more questions here. This one is super broad. Of course, you talked about security services a little bit earlier, but Carlos asks how to price backup recovery solutions.
It goes back to what I said. It depends. Who are we selling to? Like, to me, if you're selling to a traditional managed services customer and they're in a regulated industry, then that is part of a whole other package of program that has your monitoring, that has your maintenance, that has your security, that has your backup, that has your recovery, that has your disaster planning. So it's going to be part of that initial or that type of package. And again, I don't know where you are or whatever else you're building into it. $250 to $400 per user per month is what I've seen. Versus if you're selling to a larger company and you're speaking with an internal IT person about helping them with their backup, then that will be a different price, depending on what the rules and responsibilities are and what you're taking ownership of and what they're going to take ownership of. So again, we can't come at it from a tools perspective. And I think that's probably if I can leave anybody with a message today, if you're asking how should I price X, are we taking it from a tools perspective, or are we taking it from a business value perspective? And then who are we trying to sell to? Who's our audience?
Yeah, maybe elaborate a little bit there on this idea of a tools perspective versus business value. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so like a tools perspective is co-managed. You're dealing with someone who understands technology, they understand tool sets, they understand at a high level what the tool does. And they already, and like, let's say we're talking with the CTO at a 500 person, organization. That CTO probably has a variety of different tech tools that he's using to manage the network, the infrastructure, the end users. But maybe you identify that they don't like doing backup. They don't like putting someone and checking backups and then finding out if backup's wrong and wasting that time, right? So maybe they don't have the people, maybe they don't have the skill sets. So this is where you can talk backup to that CTO and help them with whatever issue they're having with backup. That's a tools-based sale. That is absolutely appropriate when you're talking to that type of client. But if you're talking, again, someone like me, I could care less about your backup tool. I could care less about your security tool. I could care less. Tell me how you're going to keep me, my employees, and my company safe. Tell me how you're going to keep my data safe. And then I will pay you money to make sure that I don't, hopefully, because it's not about, nothing's guaranteed. I understand that. But you're doing, and I'm paying for the service that you are keeping my employees safe and productive. Because if I get knocked offline because of a cyber attack, that's rendering me unproductive. And I can't have that. So tell me how you're going to solve my pain to avoid that from happening. That's the value base. You're speaking to a pain that I may have, a problem I may be experiencing, and you are telling me how you're going to solve it with your package of services, where I don't care about the tools that you're using. Just get it done.
Yeah, great response. And I'm kind of curious, and maybe some of our audiences as well. Is there a better market to sell into versus this tools / co-managed versus business value to manage it all? Or maybe maybe pros and cons.
Yeah, like there's riches and niches. Like there's those MSPs. If you can verticalize, like if you look at your own base and you recognize that you really like supporting healthcare clients, and you recognize that they're good clients, they recognize your expertise, they value your partnership, you put a recommendation in front of them, they're listening. It involves just kind of doing a segmentation of your existing clients to see who do you have today, who do you really like working with, who do you don't like working with, so that you can develop kind of your ideal client profile, your ICP or your TCP, you might see it called, your target client profile. And if you can get more verticalized into a specific industry. Now, I'm not saying put all your eggs in one basket, but from a marketing perspective, you should have designated campaigns targeted the different industries that you do support, because then again, non-technical here, if I deal in the accounting industry and I'm looking for a new MSP, and through my search, I see that you are a CPA focused MSP, I'm probably going to reach out to you first than someone that says, yeah, we service everybody, right? Because the assumption is, and this is what I want to see via your marketing messaging and your social posts and your blogs and your thought leadership, that you understand the problems and the challenges of the accounting industry. And you work with a variety of top tier businesses in the accounting industry. And you can show me quotes and testimonials and case studies of how you have helped businesses in the accounting industry. There's power there. And I'm me, because I don't know anything, I'm going to be more swayed to reach out to you because people pay for specialization, right? If I know that you will service and you support and you have proof from the social aspect that you support CPAs really, really well with your advanced security services, whatever they are, that's going to resonate with me. So there is riches and niches.
Yeah. Fantastic advice, and I see this repeated across not just MSP industry, but
it's anything. Yeah, isn't anything that I'm saying is not MSP specific. It's just general marketing concept.
It's repeated because it works.
It
I do want to get to a comment from Artie here. Artie Darrell says, we're new to the MSP style services and pricing, but have decades of support experience listening and watching multiple sources, seemingly $150 to $300 from basic help desk support to premium 1 hour SLA with multiple backups in cloud seems common. I assume subscription costs are typically billed separately. And then one follow-up from Artie.
subscription
I'm
costs
hearing
for software.
yeah. Vig, Artie, if you're still here, please clarify. And then one last from Artie. I'm hearing in the Canada market, we have some sales exposure there. They're being flooded by cheaper services from India, etc.
So yeah, and I'm in Canada. So nice to see you, Artie. Yeah, no, the subscription services makes it like it looks like you're trying to split your support that you're delivering from the software, is what it sounds like. Again, depending who we're selling to, I'm going to assume if we're talking traditional managed services, that should be all put together, so that someone can't pick apart. And you got to put your support services into your own costing structure along with the software that's going to go in based on the services that you're delivering. But I don't be afraid to be more expensive than others. I talk about weaponizing your competitor's cheaper price. You know, if someone's coming and saying, well, you're $300 and yes. So Artie, I put support and services should be all part of one package. Because if you're supplying the software, you should be supporting that software as well, supporting the help desk calls, supporting the emergency support. But if you have an RMM and you're doing all that preventative maintenance, then hopefully the reactive support calls won't be as much. So you won't have to kind of utilize that extra support time because you have you're leveraging automation and you're doing what's needed to optimize and protect the network. But kind of going back to you being more expensive or wanting to be more expensive, you should be more expensive. Again, going back to the riches and niches, people pay for specialization. People pay to reduce pain. So if you can be a specialized in the CPA, reducing my pain to keep my employees safe and productive and not rendered unproductive because of a cyber incident, I will pay for that. And so if someone's coming at me saying, well, I can do it for $75 a user per month, I'd be questioning that. I'd be like, I'm quite concerned how you're able to, here's my expectations. This one's saying they can do it for $300 a month. You're telling me you can do it for $75. What's missing from yours? And try and figure out, there's a lot that's not being spoken about in there. So I always say weaponize a lower price point, because for a true cybersecurity program, there's no way they can do it for $75 a user per month, even if they're using outsourced.
What was that quote again? Weaponize
their lower price against them.
Okay, awesome. There's another great one. Great response overall, Stephanie, but there's an awesome one there. Don't be afraid to be more expensive than others. I love that. And I'll plug a book that I've been recently reading. It's called How to Sell at Margins Higher Than Your Competitors. Reminds me a lot of this conversation, because when you kind of have that fight to the bottom,
no one wins.
You can't compete on price because the next guy is just going to go completely lower.
And that's why the specialization comes into play. Like I just gave a boot camp last week on this, where again, if you're coming across as this generalist saying, hey, we're an MSP delivering managed services, that's not going to resonate with me versus you telling me that you specialize in delivering cybersecurity services to the accounting industry, and you can back that up with social proof. I'm going to pay more for you because you're demonstrating that you actually know what you're talking about, versus I'm not going to say that this MSP delivering general managed services doesn't know what he's talking about. But in my world, MSP means you fix computers. That's my expectation of you. And if you're saying you're an MSP and you're saying you're MSP, you're both fixing computers. What makes you different? So you need to really focus on, and when you think about what MSPs do, you guys are brilliant. There's so much things that you do. There's so much expertise that you have that market that expertise. Like if you're fantastic at business continuity or disaster recovery or cybersecurity or cloud or business transformation, market yourself as such, but then the managed services kind of rides the coattails of that. Your security services are naturally going to ride the coattails of that, because whatever you put out there from a backup perspective, everything else to keep them up, productive, available, you need to implement that too. But it's just about the messaging you put out there.
Amazing. And I think we kind of preemptively answered Barrick's question here. But how do I avoid underpricing myself and underselling myself?
They're very two different things. I think underselling, I see that all the time. All the time. I feel like a big part of my job is to bolster confidence in the partners that I speak with, because again, I think it's coming from the technical mindset. In your mind, it takes nothing to do this one thing. And you're like, well, it doesn't take me all that time. I'll just do it. But you don't think about the person on the other end, that they don't have that knowledge. They don't have that expertise. They will pay you for that. So I think part of that is, just realizing the value that you do bring, especially post COVID. A lot of businesses, because they had to work remotely, they're still dealing with hybrid. They have employees that, they're working out of the office and they don't really want to come back. So there's still a lot of challenges that business owners have to contend with. So they're appreciating the value that their partnership with their MSP can provide now. And so from the underpricing, what I always talk about is making sure you are building in proper margins. MSPs from a security perspective, they're getting 60, 70, 80% margin. So making sure that you've designed your program, you know what software needs to go in, you know what support you're going to put in, and then making sure we're building proper margin. And then just a lot of it is going to be sales, like just developing your sales acumen, developing your ability to, when you get an objection, how should you handle that? And so I deliver boot camps on how to handle objections. And one of that is the pricing one, weaponize. Someone's coming at you at 75, I'm offering you 300. Be a little concerned what the $75 MSP is doing. And I'm pretty sure you want someone to be around in a year. You're not going to be around at $75. So it's just developing that business acumen to deal with those types of objections, practice your responses. And then every time you put a contract out there, raise your price a little bit, build in a little bit extra margin, so that every contract you're putting out there, you're trying to get a little bit more to test that market to see, what kind of pushback you're going to get. A lot of MSPs keep their pricing static. And a lot of MSPs, they're not raising their prices. You should always be raising your prices. If you look at your contracts today and you don't have standard price increases in there, please tomorrow make that number one on your to-do list is, work with your legal counsel, work with whatever to get that clause in and put it into future, any new clients you bring on. MSPs, you have to raise your prices. Your costs are going up. You have to raise your prices to your customers as well. So that's going to be another way to avoid underpricing, is just making sure that you're putting in standard price increases. Everybody else is, you should too.
Wow. Awesome soapbox. A lot to unpack there as well.
Sorry, I get all heated on this.
No, please. This is amazing. I love this idea of price increases. It reminds me of I have a lot of quotes floating around. It's kind of a gross one, but this book, this guy I was reading recently said, effectively, if businesses aren't growing, they're dying. They're like a tapeworm. They must eat to survive. Because like you said, Stephanie, you were alluding to, your costs are rising. If you have techs that want, increases, promotions, and a path to growth. Yeah.
You can't afford to lose techs, right? So you need to pay them so that you're not trying to replace them. So all of those costs, if you want to make improvements, if you want to make investments in your tech stack or your security stack, that all is cost. And, so you need to get into the habit of raising prices if you're not doing that.
Yeah. On that same topic, I feel like I might know your answer, but Michael asks, what is the standard percentage for an annual increase?
Well, at least as a minimum, whatever the cost of inflation is. Now we're a little bit, because it's been kind of high the last couple of years, but, normal, at least 5%, 5 to 7% a year. Again, you just need to kind of reevaluate, your costs that are going in, your software costs, like the price increases that probably your vendor has put on you, and maintaining that margin, the 60, 70, 80% margin, and then you might have to raise it appropriately. But that's also where, every time, if you say 50% margin is what I want in my programs, next time you put out a contract, 51.5, 52. Like, just keep nudging it up to kind of see what the market will bear. Now, making sure that you're comfortable with being able to handle those price objections, that you have your responses, that you believe in the value that you're providing, that you fully understand the customer and the industry that you are supporting, that you have the social proof to back that all up. If you do, yeah, keep trying to nudge that up a little bit.
Sweet. Just a few more questions here, and then I have a follow-up. One from Carlos about, maybe this is just a general for folks, but maybe Enable has some resources for Carlos on contracts or SLAs.
This is probably my second question I get on a daily basis.
Oh boy.
The reason we don't have any, because we're just a software company. And we can't give legal advice. And that's what a sample MSP is. It would be a software company giving legal advice. And then if something goes wrong, we can't put that liability on ourselves. I would also encourage you not to take somebody else's contract. It might be easy to work off a template, but depending on where you live, depending on the program that you've built, depending on the services that you're delivering, there's a lot of depends. You need to really work with your own legal counsel that's familiar with your market, that's familiar with your business, and work with them to really, because SLA, that's personal. Like, what are you actually able to deliver as an MSP? What's your skill set? What's the tool sets that you have? So if you go and take somebody else's and you actually can't deliver on what there is in theirs, you're going to open yourself up to liability. Now, I love it that he's asking, because all MSPs should have a contract in place. I'm still shocked when I talk to MSPs, and it's almost like a badge of honor to say, well, I don't make my customers sign contracts.
Oh, wow. Just a handshake deal.
Like, oh my God. Like, it's just like, you look at just the couple of lawsuits that have come forward this year, where MSPs are being sued by their customers. And, we only have a little bit of details coming out, but between the two, it sounds like there's no contracts in place. They're oral agreements. So I love it that we're asking about contracts. Enable doesn't have any that we send out, because we're just a software company. Work with your own legal counsel. It's going to cost you money. Yes. But make sure you've maybe developed your programs first. Like, you have to give them something, and your contracts are based on what you're delivering. So you need to define what you're going to be delivering first, and then work from there.
Awesome. And Stephanie, you do have a boot camp coming up that Lisa so kindly plugged. We will have details for these, but it looks like there's one going on just, what is this, Wednesday?
Yeah, so thanks, Lisa. So it's actually it's the start of a 3-part sales series that I'm starting on Wednesday. And the idea is that your marketing worked. You now have a prospect that wants to meet with you and speak with you. Now, what do you do? So it's about, how do you take that prospect and move them through the sales and marketing funnel as efficiently, as quickly as possible, so they become a signed new deal at the end. And so it starts with that discovery. So how do you ask the right set of questions? What's the flow of the questions that you should be asking to see if this prospect is actually a good fit for your MSP and your services? And I phrase it that way because most MSPs want any single customer that will agree to be their client. And I am really challenging MSPs to think critically about, who do you want to have as a client? And making sure that you're both, because at the end of the day, a contract should be a win-win for both. And if you had to dive your price, or commit yourself to an unprofitable contract because you're thinking you're trying to win the client, that's not a healthy business arrangement. That's actually going to probably provide you more grief than what you really need. So that the idea with the discovery questions is making sure that you are asking the right questions, that you guys, that the partner and the MSP are kind of on the same page. And then it leads into an assessment, because every MSP should be delivering an assessment to figure out what they're getting themselves into. And so I have a second boot camp that's happening on how do you conduct a cybersecurity, a workflow assessment, because that's all the data that you need to help you put together a compelling proposal, which is my third boot camp. So, you've done the qualification, you've done the assessment, you have all this data, all this insight on the client. The proposal is really using all that data on all their sentiments against them to really build up your value and get them to sign. So it starts Wednesday and it will go into September.
Fantastic. And we will, of course, send out links to that in the post show notes. One more, let's see. Carlos, there are no samples online. I guess I'll fork out the bucks. Yeah, we're not lawyers. Or, yeah, I'm not anyway. Michael, no, I'm just trying to find it. For Barrick, this was a few minutes back, but Barrick asks, best way of terminating legacy contracts that now don't bring in revenue. So how to break up.
Well, do you have something in your contracts to say when they come up for renewal or if there is an expiry date? But what I would do before terminating is, are you doing your executive business reviews or quarterly business reviews or whatever term you want to give them? Like, are you meeting with your customers on a regular basis to talk to them about cybersecurity, talk to them about risk mitigation? You know, you have your standards that you've probably set for your MSP, or you should have set for your MSP that, and for all your customers, of how to protect them from a cybersecurity standpoint. If these customers are deviating, then talk to them about that, because that business is at risk. It's not so much you trying to pitch them and raise their prices, which yes, we should be, but if they are legitimately missing quality pieces out of from a security services standpoint, do that education with them and say, look, I'm concerned about the quality and the state of your network. And if you have to own it and say, look, you know, I haven't been delivering, you know, looking at the threat landscape, I haven't been delivering the right level of services that businesses now need to protect themselves from a breach. I have now redesigned my packages. I am now implementing the standard across all of my customers. And let's talk about what the standard is, where you're deficient, where your risks are, and what we need to get you there. And it is going to necessitate a raise in price, and just kind of see how that conversation goes before we kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because maybe there'll be a new contract that you'll be able to sign, and you'll get them into that new cadence of contract. Here's the services. Every year there's a price increase, and you turn it around. They can start becoming a profitable client for you.
Awesome. I think we ran out of comments, which is good, because I want to get to my no, if you have comments, please drop them for Stephanie. But I did want to get back to a topic we were on a little bit earlier. Stephanie, you were talking about this like advanced security bundle and a couple of different names of what sounds like packages of services.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Do you have advice for an MSP owner that maybe is spinning up a new offering, how they can decide which services to put in that bundle, or is it dependent on client needs? How would you handle
it? It depends, Stetson.
Sure.
It depends on who you're targeting. You know, if you are starting up a new MSP, it's almost this beautiful opportunity to really define who you are going to do business with, and then be disciplined about who you want to do business with. So it's really thinking about, what industries you want to target. From a cybersecurity perspective, from a needs perspective, focusing on organizations that fall underneath some sort of compliance is always going to help create that story for you around the need for an advanced security. And then it will help you kind of figure out what are the services that you have to put in there. But it comes down to what are the types of organizations that you want to support? What are the size? Is there an internal IT person or not? It's first figure out who you want to target, and then figure out what it is that you're going to sell to them. But do it before you start trying to sell to them. Get the program figured out first.
Yeah. I guess too, how should MSPs think about which types of services? So whether it be like backup, security, RMM, etc., all these. What do you do there?
That's the package.
Yeah, all of them. Okay.
All of them. Yeah, because you need and I guess the biggest question would be, what level of support are you providing, right? Are you an all-inclusive? So you're including all of the emails, the chat, the phone calls, the emergency support. We call that kind of a fully managed program, because all the support is in there. Or are you just looking after the monitoring and maintenance and security and the backup, and all that reactive stuff is going to be billable? We call that kind of a proactive. So a big decision is, how are you going to deliver that level of support? But every customer should have your RMM. You should be monitoring every single device across all of your customers' network. If they have Macs, you should be monitoring Macs, like everything, because you can only, from a security standpoint, you can only protect what you know about. And if you're not monitoring certain devices, then that's a hole, that's a gap. And something could happen that you're not going to be aware of because you don't know about it. So every program should have RMM. Every program should have backup. I still come across partners in MSPs that say, well, backup is optional. I'm like, why? Like, backup is kind of your last line of defense. If something happens and something gets through and you're not backing up because the customer chose, I don't want to pay for that because you're too expensive. You have to have backup in all of your programs. Security. And really there's two programs that I talk about in my boot camps: an essential security program and an advanced security program. Again, it really comes down to if the customer that you're selling to is in a regulated industry or not. Regulated industry, there's compliance requirements. You need your SOC, you need your SIM, you need your managed detection and response. It's an advanced security package. If you're dealing with maybe a lower risk client, maybe they're not terribly big, the data breach wouldn't be as big. Like, they're not going to go out of business. The threat's not really there. Do they need an advanced package? Probably not. They can probably do with an essentials that just focuses on the endpoint. We're not focusing on the cloud and all the network devices. We're just focusing on, the servers and the workstation. So again, it always comes back to, who are we selling to? What's their risk? What's their return to operations objective? Like, how long could they afford to be down with their doors closed, with their employees not working? If there's some workarounds, they got some paper-based systems that they can go back to, probably a lower risk client, maybe get them into that baseline essentials program. If you have someone that's telling you, I can't afford to be down, I can't afford to close my doors, I can't afford to have all my employees just sitting around not working, well, that risk is obviously very high for them. They're very sensitive to that risk. So we should be selling them a higher security program.
Awesome. I want to cover another comment here from Jorge. What if clients want to run a trial run before commitment? Have you ran into that?
Well, that's where the assessment comes into play, right? Because you don't want to commit yourself to anything before you have a good understanding of what you're getting yourself into. So you should want to do, I'm not going to call it a trial run because you can't trial managed services, but you should be, if there's a good understanding between what they need and what you can provide, and you feel that there possibly could be a good fit, their existing MSP you feel is missing a lot of things, maybe from a security standpoint, do that assessment, find out where the gaps are, where the holes are, because you need to get those filled before you can even take them on as a monthly managed services client. So you may need to do an upfront project. And that's one of the other benefits of doing an assessment. You can actually start making money before you start making money, because if you need to raise that network or that security up to an acceptable level, that's something you want to get done ahead of time, because they're at risk right now. You've identified holes, you've identified gaps, you've identified deficiencies in their network, in their security stance that maybe their existing MSP has missed. We want to get that addressed before the contract even starts, because you need to protect yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I had a question, which you easily answered. Should you charge for an assessment? Sounds like the answer is, of course. I've done similar, what I've called a roadmap in the past for development and things like that, where it's so helpful, so win-win, because the client kind of gets like the answer to, what direction they should go, or at least an objective opinion. And again, gives, just everybody knowledge on like, should we continue?
But then it's something that you then refer back to in their quarterly business reviews, right? It gives you a way to build your pipeline and to keep a pipeline going for your MSP, because you're having those sit downs. You've done that assessment. You know what holes, what gaps, what deficiencies exist, what projects need to be done. You've prioritized those projects based on risk and what needs to be done ahead of time. So the assessment actually can help speed up your sales process and create that urgency. And then you create that roadmap document, risk register, to then you put it into your proposal and say, look, we need to deal with this. You're at risk. And then that document becomes that living, breathing document moving forward for your QBRs. And you can keep managing the projects. And as one project is done, another one rolls up to the top. And so you get that trailing effect and a constant supply of projects for your MSP. So yeah, that's perfect. But yes, you should be charging for your assessment. It takes you time. It's gonna take you time. It's gonna use probably your top people to deliver it, as they should, because this is a quality piece that you're putting out there, and people will pay for quality. They won't pay like if you tell them that you're giving it away for free, they're not gonna put any value behind that.
Yeah, fantastic. I know the answer, I think, to this, but what should you charge for an assessment?
It depends. It depends. It depends. It depends on how big of the client it is. It depends on how big of the scope of work. I have heard MSPs, charge anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000, upwards to 10,000 for it, because it depends on what tool sets are you using to conduct your assessment. There's going to be a lot of manual interviews because you need to kind of figure out how are the key stakeholders interacting with the technology they're using today? What are the ramifications if that technology goes offline? What are they able to, what they're not able to do? What are the technical pieces that are in the background that kind of helps with their workflow and allows them to do what they need to do? So it is time consuming. It's not just, plugging in a tool and running a scan. You then need to take that time and you need to put it into a quality output, because, people like seeing a book, like making it look professional. So yeah, so depending on what you put into it, especially if you're using your top, resources, 3, 5, 10,000 for, especially if it's a larger organization. Now, there's ways that you can offset that. If they come on and say, yeah, this is great, we're going to sign, we're going to become a customer, you can provide maybe a discount off of their monthly fee. You may decide to waive 50% of it. You may decide to waive all of it, but you should always set that expectation that you're charging for this up front. It's a chargeable expense. You're providing a piece back to them. You're providing them the output that they own. That's what they're buying. And then if they decide to sign on as a client, you can get creative after that.
Yeah, awesome. So much here. My brain is, I think still getting caffeinated, to be honest. Stephanie, this has been amazing. I think folks are really going to enjoy this. Again, as we talked about, maybe folks that are technical, just coming to marketing and sales, and trying to learn that side of the world. Do you think we should wrap up here, or any final kind of closing thoughts on pricing for MSPs?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me on to kind of talk about this. I love my job. I love talking to MSPs and helping them make a better MSP for themselves and improve their business. And so no final thoughts. I think I've been on my soapbox long enough. I can probably come back down now.
No, it's been great. I think we could hang out all day talking about marketing and sales. I certainly have more questions. But for now,
you just have to have me back for the part 2.
Yeah, let's do it. Where can folks reach out to you online?
I'm on LinkedIn. Just Stephanie.Hammond, Stephanie with an F. So if you try to find me on a PH, it won't work. Or just Stephanie.Hammond@enable.com. I'm there as well.
Awesome. And we will be sending out links to the bootcamp, but do you want to give a plug where folks can find that?
Yeah. If you just go to enable.com/events, you're then able to filter by head nerds. And then you'll see actually all of the head nerds. So if you have questions around security, if you have questions around backup, if you have questions around, automation, I'm in there with my sales and marketing, but you'll actually see all of the head nerds and the content that we have. And it's open to any MSP. You do not need to be an Enable partner to attend any of our boot camps. They are not sales. You will not have anyone from sales contact you afterwards. We are purely education for the MSP industry. So everyone's invited.
Awesome. Great disclaimer, because I know a lot of folks are afraid of salespeople.
Yeah, you won't. Again, we do not provide the attendees list to anybody from sales. So no worry about that.
Yeah, fantastic. Enable.com/events. I am super curious myself about this cracking the code to successful sales and some of these things around objections. I see lots of overcoming objections and winning the sale and conducting assessments that yield results. You got the meeting. Now what? Kind of going deeper into some more of these topics
that's exactly what it is. Yeah. Now they're boot camps, so they're about a couple of hours in length. So they are detailed. But yeah, I try to be in my material prescriptive. I know when I attend, training webinars, I don't like when they get airy fairy. And like, I always try to think of, okay, how can someone actually take this and put it into action in their MSP? So tend to get a little wordy, but people seem to what I say, what I teach seems to resonate. So
fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Stephanie, for dropping by today. This is super helpful. If folks are interested, we will be sending out some post show notes and hope to catch y'all on the next one. See
yeah,
ya.
thank you.
Bye.